Levitation, 1969. Rising up in the air, the girl feels dead. Her eyes are closed. For a moment she has forgotten everything. She is dead. Then alive again. They have set her down on the concrete wall and the ceremony is over. They do not misuse the levitation game. Weeks and even months go by and they don't even do it or think of doing it, as if it's a dream that occasionally reoccurs, but is forgotten when the sleeper awakens. Then at some point in time, it stops. They never perform the act of levitation again. The game had arrived in their lives after the singing games of the farmers in his dell and oranges and lemons had fallen away, but before the long passage of no games at all envelops them forever. The reign of levitation is also that of puberty. Is it not said that pubescent girls and boys, those on the cusp of change, are the most vulnerable and attractive to the spirit world? That in homes where poltergeists are active, there is usually in residence a child in their early teens. The dead girl, who is not really dead, lives in a home with such a poltergeist. Objects are broken, china smashed into many pieces, the old black Baker-like telephone, the one whose weight and heft suggested unalienable permanence, is suddenly and mysteriously transformed. It catches her eye when she comes home from school. It is in its usual place by the front door, but something is different about it. She looks closely, sees an intricate pattern of lines and cracks all over it, and in places evidence of glue. The phone has somehow been broken into 100 jagged shards, and then someone, she knows who, has painstakingly, with his araldite and magnifier, tweezers and spent matches, put it back together. Such an event should come in conversation in small families such as theirs, but no one says a word. The destruction was the work of an angry spirit. The reconstruction was performed by her father, who is often to be found with a soldering iron in his hand, or a pair of needle-nosed pliers, an axe or hammer. One autumn day years ago, she came across him in the garden tending a bonfire of fallen leaves. Such a fire is always an event for a child of 8 or 9, so she stands at a safe distance to watch how he rakes and prods it, how the flames change colour from red to blue to white to yellow. He stirs his pyre of smoking leaves, and suddenly the centre gives way, and something hidden is suddenly revealed. First brown paper that flares away to black tissuey fragments, then white fabric pads, some folded in upon themselves, others that boldly show their faces with their Rorschach's tests of blots of red and rust-coloured blood. Her mother's blood. Her mother's sanitary towels, which belong to the secret realm of locked bathrooms, are out here being burned by her father in the front garden of their home, where any neighbour or passer-by might see. Behind her father is the oak tree, and behind that the ivy-covered low stone wall, and in the earth just in front is a bamboo pole that she has topped with a bird's skull, a totem she's made to ward off danger. This was long ago, before the poltergeist and the angry words that echo through the house late at night to infiltrate her dreams, turning them into nightmares. One day her mother came home from the shops and announced she had found a lucky charm. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a tiny little hand made from cheap nickel-plated metal. The thumb was tucked into the palm, and so were the 2 middle fingers, leaving just the index and little finger standing proudly erect. Aren't those meant to represent the devil's horns, the girl said, not knowing where such knowledge came from. Her mother's eyes widened in horror. She threw the charm from her hand into the empty sink. Later she took it into the garden and was gone for some time. When she came back into the house, she looked tired and frightened. "I tried to smash it," she told her daughter. "Then I tried to burn it. It's indestructible. It must have been made by the devil." Now the girl is 11 years old and goes to big school, where, as the littlest, lightest one among her friends, she always plays the dead girl. This is the law of levitation. There is no greater pleasure than the moment when the other girls lift her high into the air. Her body remains absolutely straight. At no place, either at one leg or at her head, does a weaker lifter fail to do the magic. And no one laughs, and the dead girl's eyes remain closed. She believes. All of them believe. Her body is still that of a child, while all around her the girls are changing, or have already changed into women. After sports they are meant to strip and go into the communal shower, all of them naked together, 16 or 17 girls, most of whom have never done such a thing before. None of them are muddy or even sweaty. A half hour of netball is hardly an exertion, especially after the enforced stillness of sitting at a desk, listening to an array of voices droning on about Pythagoras and the tributaries of the Nile, and flying buttresses and Beowulf and blanket stitch and the creaming method for making cakes. She and a few other girls run to the showers with their towels wrapped carefully around themselves. Then, after splashing a little water over their heads and feet, they run back to the changing area again. The poltergeist at home is getting worse. Last night he tore the television set from the stand and jumped on it. She doesn't know if he was careful to switch it off and take out the plug first. Probably, as he's always telling them to do just that. She has dark circles under her eyes. She is thin and, though no one knows this, anemic. She does not do her homework. Every time her parents ask if she has any, she says no, or explains that she did it on the bus. She is like a fallen leaf caught up in a strong gust of wind. She has no locomotion. In biology, Mr. Thomas has taught them that as seeds have no locomotion, they must find other means of dispersal, hence the helicopter wings of sycamore seeds. In the playground, from behind her, something hard and knobbly is laid upon her head. This may be the start of another interesting game, but when she turns, she sees that the hand belongs to a girl she does not really know, a girl who gives her a smile that is glittering with malice. She has only just understood that the object on her head is a curled fist when its partner arrives to smash it down. It is meant to be like a raw egg breaking on her head, but it is far more painful than that. It hurts as much as if the girl had just straightforwardly punched her. It is instead a complex violence that is nearly impossible to react to. It is delivered in the guise of a joke, but the message is menace. She grimaces with pain, her eyes water. "Don't cry, whatever you do, don't cry." Weakly she smiles, then grimaces again, this time comically, exaggerating her expression in the hope they will appreciate her humour. This is a tactic that usually works, but not now, not with this girl and her silent, sneering sidekick. Instead, they point right at her, index fingers dangerously close to poking out an eye, and laugh jeeringly, artificially, "Wah ha ha." Then as quickly as they had arrived, they are gone, and whatever that was is over. At around 2 in the afternoon, it grows unnaturally dark, nearly as black as night. The teacher has switched on the overhead lights and attempts to keep their attention on the lesson. But beyond the big plate glass window, the distant hills and far-off steelworks are the dramatic backdrop to a spectacular performance by the weather. Grey-black clouds fill the sky and the air is charged with electricity. The children can barely keep their eyes from the window. The teacher raps the wooden board duster sharply on her desk, creating a cloud of chalk dust, but their attention is snagged by a greater primordial force than she. Never mind the storm, we have work to do. Now, look at your books. What is the meaning of... A flash of lightning draws a collective gasp from the children, loud enough to cut her off in mid-sentence. Seconds later, distantly, there is a rumble of thunder. Whoa, one boy cries, and abandons his chair to run to the window, and then nearly all of the children are by the window, staring outside, their eyes wide with wonder. Lightning zigzags down again and again on the far-off hills, magnesium-white veins that burn onto the retina, while the tin tray thunderclaps grow louder and more insistent. Unlike the others, the dead girl stays in her seat. She can see just as well from there as from the scrum of elbows and sharp knees and bony heads that are ducking and dancing and roaring by the window. She is no less moved than the others, no more obedient than they, but she has withdrawn into herself. She is a pair of green eyes looking out at the world as a leaf of her body is taken there, or battered by that, or torn by this. Seconds pass, and finally she no longer wants to remain in her seat. She wants to belong, to be like the other children, to break the rules like them, to press her face against the cold glass by the window and feel the thrum in her cheekbones as the sound waves batter and shake it. Children, the teacher is saying, calm down at once. The dead girl pushes back her chair. She wears a beatific smile as she stands and begins to take the few steps which will bring her to the window. She seems to glide forward, focusing her gaze on the distant hills. She does not see the teacher bearing down on her. She hears the tirade of words coming from the teacher's mouth, but they are as generalized as the thunder. I will not have this. I will not tolerate such insubordination in my classroom. Sit down at once, you! The teacher catches her arm, wrenching it sideways, forcing her to turn. The older woman's face close up is terrifying, her expression almost insane with fury. How dare you, she roars, then slaps the dead girl's left cheek. Stop grinning, child, she adds. But the girl's smile is already gone, and her face is blank once more. She closes her eyes. She is dead, the girl standing at her head says, and the voices travel round her prone body, echoes of what has been, of what is to come. Then they are lifting her higher and higher to waist level, then shoulder level, then above their heads to the furthest reach of their upstretched arms and fingers, then higher still and higher again until she is floating far overhead. Then finally, although the other girls shade their eyes and search the sky, they can no longer see her. She's gone.